So today I want to talk about a book that I am not even in the least bit qualified to talk about, but I like it, so why not? And that book is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. So Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky is one of my favorite novels. By the way, in this video, don't expect this to be a super introspective, retro. Don't expect this. This is already a good example, but don't expect this to be a video that goes super in deep and super deep into what Dostoevsky meant by everything that he was talking about in this book, or anything like that, or a super psychological or sociological review, or just anything intelligent at all. Just disregard any of that. This is basically just going to be just me talking about this book in general and just giving my thoughts on it, what I took away. And yeah, that's kind of what this video is going to be. So to start off, Crime and Punishment is about the main character, Raskolnikov, who is a college student, and he's very broke, and basically the whole book revolves around him committing a crime, and in the end he serves a punishment for this crime, therefore the title being named Crime and Punishment. So basically the whole, to give a quick synopsis, the whole idea of the novel is Raskolnikov is very poor. His family has been sending him money so that he can continue his studies in college and continue going to college. And his sister has gone into prostitution and started prostituting herself to help the family pay for whatever the family has to pay for, that sort of thing. And so his sister and his mom are living in a different part of Russia while he's living where he is doing his studies. They're sending him money, and he's gotten to a point where he drops out of school, and he has this paper that he's written, and basically in this paper he has this whole grand idea that there are two different kinds of people in the world. There are the extraordinary and there are the ordinary. And the extraordinary are the people like he mentions an example as Napoleon as a extraordinary. And so what an extraordinary and an ordinary person are is basically the ordinary person goes and just lives the life like a normal person, obeys the rules, pays the bills, just your average kind of person. They follow the rules, and they're just the average person. But where the things get different is you have your extraordinary person. Your extraordinary person is somebody that is just here for a better purpose and a greater purpose, and their purpose is so great that they rise above the normal person, and they're not just the normal person. They rise above it, and they become a bit amoral, and they don't have to follow morals, and they don't have the same morals, because essentially the ends justify the means. The end result of what they will do in order to get to where they will go is justified. Whereas the normal person, let's just give you an example of what it was in the book. So say like the normal person kills somebody, it's not justified. They suffer from it. They have terrible PTSD from doing it, just because they're not an extraordinary person. They're not capable of doing things that are morally wrong and being okay with that, because they are the normal person. They are ordinary. They are not extraordinary. They are not the 1% of the 1%, okay? So that is Raskolnikov's idea. So with that being said, he takes this idea and he tries to put it into reality and test it. So in the beginning of the novel, we start out by Raskolnikov. Here, we can just actually read out the first page, the first chapter, because it's actually a pretty popular little paragraph. So in the first chapter, chapter 1, page 1, in early July, in exceptional heat, towards evening, a young man left the garret he was renting in Lane, stepped out stepped outside and slowly, as if in two minds, set off towards KN Bridge. So that's how we start out. And after that, it goes on in talking about how he meets the landlady that he is, hold on. Yeah, he meets the landlady. He avoids the landlady because he's actually a bit broke right now. He's a bit behind on rent, so he avoids the landlady so he doesn't have to have that awkward little, oh yeah, you know, blah, blah, whatever. So, to get to the point, he has his idea that he himself is an extraordinary person, so he is beyond the normal people. And so he has this idea that there's this pawnbroker, and this pawnbroker is a lady that's just an old, haggard, just bitter lady that he believes everybody in the community kind of doesn't like her and feel like they're always getting screwed over by her, this and that, and he just thinks that the world would be better off without her. You know, this utilitarianism idea, you know, 5 for 1, 1 for 5. He just says that sacrificing this lady is for the greater good because it would make these people happy versus keeping her alive. And so this one sacrifice is a bad thing because someone died, but it's outweighed because of the positives over here, right? So that's kind of his idea, and he thinks that, so he has this grand idea where he decides he's going to kill the pawnbroker and take her money in order to pay for his college and whatnot. And he thinks that this will be the great thing that he does to save himself and his family out of the terrible debt that they're in, and to get his sister out of the life of prostitution. And there is much more in the story. There's a whole guy that she ends up having to prostitute herself to. She was going to get a marriage to him, and there's a lot of subplots going on in this story, but that's the main gist of it. Raskolnikov thinks that he's an extraordinary person and that he is above the natural person he's above the law, essentially. And so he decides he is going to test this idea. And so when this happens, he plots it out, the killing, and he decides that he is going to kill her with an axe. Actually, it's pictured on the cover. You can see the bloody axe here with Raskolnikov and looking into what he has done. And you can see him trembling because a little foresight. His plan does not go exactly as planned. So he decides that he's going to kill the pawnbroker, but after said doing so, immediately the shame and the guilt just swallows him whole, and he is immediately struck and just absolutely terrified that he will get caught for the crime. So terrified, in fact, that he nearly doesn't even get away with the money that he took. In fact, I believe there was a lockbox, like a chest of treasures that he believed that this lady had, and that's what initially he was going after. But in the moment, he was so scared and so ready to get out of there that he ends up leaving without even the money. And then the money that he does get, which is a little coin purse, and is just not very much at all, he goes in some yard and just kind of digs a hole and hides it with a rock and just doesn't even use the money. You know, he is so scared from this experience that he doesn't want anything to do with the money that he got from it. He just wants to be done with it. And it's so interesting to see that instant moment of, like, Jordan Peterson talked about this book one time, and he called it the Luciferian knowledge. You know, Raskolnikov was tempted with this Luciferian knowledge to think that he is better than everyone else and that he can rise above these morals, you know, because I am so smart that I'm above all of you, because I can outthink my way out of this life. And that's what Raskolnikov tries. He tries to be the thinker so much that he thinks himself out of these problems, and he thinks that logic can save him. And in fact, logic alone cannot save you, because life itself has its own lessons to teach you. You can sit in a room all day and you can think how to get through things, and you can be like Raskolnikov, and you can think that you've got it all figured out, and if only you do this, then everything will work. And then you go and do that thing, and it turns out that was a terrible idea. You should never done it, and now you've got to pay your dues. And so that's kind of the basis of this novel. And of course, him doing the deed, we'll say, him murdering the pawnbroker, is only the first part of the novel, and the whole remainder of the novel is really the whole interesting part of the novel, which is kind of the psychological breakdown of a killer and what it's like to be in the mind of a crazed person like that. And it's so interesting. That's why I like this book so much, is you get to see that, because in the book you're really in Raskolnikov's mind, and you're really hearing his thoughts and him just being crazed, and he's really sick the days after. I remember there was a time where they're all talking about the situation, and Raskolnikov ended up fainting while they're all talking about the crime. It's just such a wild book, and I'm really trying to go and think through some of the things that happen. Maybe I'll just kind of wrap it up. I don't really have much else to say about this book. Obviously, I didn't talk about everything that happened in this book within this video, and it's probably not very even concise. So basically, let me just go back to what I was doing. So where were we at? Raskolnikov faints and all that. So at some point, there's an detective introduced, and he's kind of on to Raskolnikov, and then there's like a whole nother guy that gets induced, and then that guy ends up admitting to the crime even though it wasn't him. And then eventually I think Raskolnikov admits to it, and Raskolnikov goes to Siberia and serves his time. And yeah, basically it's been a while since I've actually read this book, so to actually do a proper review right now, I probably would have had to go back and reread it. But like I said, that's kind of not the point with this video. It's really, the point of this video is really just because I want to upload a video, and this is one of my favorite books of all time, so I just kind of wanted to take some time to sit down and talk about it. And at a later point, when I am a bit more refreshed on it, I might come back and sort of redo this. But for now, this has been Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, and thank you for watching.